welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, March 7th. We are officially 1 week away from spring break. I feel like I've been saying spring break is right around the corner for a while now, and it's not getting that much closer, but I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. One more week. We're all tired, but I do have some exciting things to share. Math has been going great. This week in science, we've been exploring moon phases, and I've got some really cool activities to show you for that. So let's jump into this Friday. Speaking of Friday, I have a new sweatshirt. It's a Fri-YAY sweatshirt, which I've had a Fri-YAY shirt for several years. It's just black with white text. And I really wanted a sweatshirt because even though it's supposed to get into the 80s today weather-wise, my classroom, I tend to keep on the colder side because my students at the beginning of the year told me I kept it too warm.
Feeling hot, hot, hot.
So I'm keeping it colder, but as a result, most of the day I'm wearing some kind of a jacket or a sweatshirt. And I said, you know what? I need a new Fri-YAY sweatshirt. So I went on to Etsy and ordered this one. There actually was a coupon code, so I didn't pay that much. But it's pretty basic, it's teachery, it's cute. I don't know, I'll link it for you if you are interested. Yesterday, I was a little on the grumpy side. I did not get a lot of sleep, and I know this about myself. When I don't get a lot of sleep, I get a little grumpy. Kind of like when I'm hungry, I get a little hangry. And so yesterday, I felt like I was not my best self. And reflecting on that at the end of the day, I told myself last night, I'm gonna get in bed early, and I did. I probably got in bed a good hour to an hour and a half earlier than normal, which means I got more sleep last night, and I'm feeling not re-energized, but I'm at least feeling more awake and more chipper than yesterday. So that's an improvement. We're gonna have a great Friday. Here's one thing I'm so excited to show my students today. We are currently studying moon phases, so the patterns of the moon, the lunar cycle, and I went on Amazon and I saw this light, and actually one of my team teachers has this exact same light in her classroom, but it will light up to show the different moon phases. How stinking cool is that? And I love that you can stick it anywhere because it is by battery, so you don't have to worry about plugging it in. It has a remote. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this set up. I've got to decide where I wanna put it in the room, but I think my students are gonna love it, and it obviously is aesthetically cute for my room, but at the same time it serves a purpose because it connects to our instruction. So really excited about that. And then yesterday in science, we did this activity to model the moon phases. Now I don't have the board currently because I had to pass it on to one of my team teachers to use, but I'll insert a video clip of it. It's essentially a poster board with a hole cut out in the middle where students stick their head. There are ping pong balls attached around the outside and a model of the sun. And the ping pong balls are set up so the half closest to the sun is white to represent the light reflecting from the sun, and the backside is dark. So as students put their head through the hole, they start by facing the sun, and then as they rotate, the moon will start waxing, so they will start seeing more and more of it as it goes around, and then it goes through all of the moon cycles until they get back to the sun. So it's a really cool way to show them how the moon and the amount that you can see because it's lit up by the sun changes depending on the Earth's position as well as the moon's position, because the moon is orbiting the Earth and then the Earth is orbiting the sun. It was just a really cool activity, and my students really enjoyed it. Basically, I modeled it for the first student, so I just used a random wheel, chose a student. They came up, they popped their head through it, I rotated it around them, they then rotated it for the next student, and I just created a cycle going through the class so everyone got to experience it with their head through it. And it's best if you put it eye level so that they're seeing the moons like right by where their eyes are. Then they also got to experience turning it for someone else. And while they were doing that, I was setting up our science word wall. Last week I showed you our patterns of the season word wall, and then here's what I came up with for patterns of the moon. This is a short science unit, so we're actually gonna be taking our test next week, but I love when the word wall is all filled up. Now it doesn't stay that way for long because obviously I end up erasing it, but it does make me really happy, and I love seeing my students interact with it. I say this every time, but I'm always like, not my best. I mean, look at that orbit of the moon around the Earth. I mean, I know it's not a perfect circle anyway, but it's on the struggle bus a little bit. And what I always like to do is I start with those pink words. Those are vocabulary words. I make sure I have definitions of those. Then I usually like to have some kind of imagery to represent something from that unit. So for example, or that chapter really, from the seasons, we had the model showing the amount of daylight changing in the seasons. And then for this one, I modeled those moon phases. And I ended up adding this in there to show when we have a new moon, it's because the moon is between the earth and the sun. When we have a full moon, it's when the earth is in between the moon and the sun. So just having those visuals, I feel like helps. And then of course I have these printed pictures that I attach to the board. I haven't had that much to add to the board from our investigations because our investigations have been a lot of like data tables and things like that. There haven't been any materials to like attach to the board, but still, I feel like we've grown a lot since the beginning of the year with these word walls. Now, I've actually gotten ahead in science on purpose because I'm gonna be out on Monday. We'll come back to that. But as a result, we have a little bit of flexibility today. I do want to go back into the chapter, reread some parts that I felt like my students could just use a refresher on. There's a video I want to show them from our textbook. But we're also going to do a mystery science lesson. I've shared about mystery science before. You can sign up for a free account if it's your first time using it. But a big bummer, and I just realized this, as an individual teacher, I cannot purchase an account. I really wish I could, but it's only at like the school or district level. So it kind of stinks. Mystery science, if you're watching this, I personally would be willing to pay out of pocket to have that resource, but that's not even an option. It has to be like a district level opt-in where they purchase licenses for everyone. So that's kind of a bummer, but we are gonna be doing a mystery science all about daylight savings time because that starts on Sunday. And actually, it fits in perfectly with our conversation about the patterns of the seasons. So that's the plan for science today. Now let's talk math. In my last vlog, I shared some spring activities or little things that I planned on incorporating this week and next week just to keep my students more engaged because we are all very tired with spring break around the corner. And one of the activities I mentioned, super easy, I just called it Pass the Peep. I got this little stuffed animal peep at the store because it was really cute. And I said that we could play it like hot potato, or it could be as simple as I throw it to students to be able to answer questions. Y'all, I did this yesterday in math. So simple, and my students were instantly engaged. Something as easy as I want to catch the peep gets them all involved and they all want to participate. So highly recommend. Again, you can use anything. It doesn't have to be a peep, but just by bringing this out. And what were we doing? We were going over measurement conversions and we had to fill in a table. So I started by throwing it to a student, and I do have a rule that you have to say the person's name before you throw it so they know that it's coming to them. You can't like just toss it to your side and catch them by surprise. But I threw it to the first student, recorded their thoughts in the chart, and then they would pass it to the next student. So they got to choose who went next. And that way it was literally out of my hands. I'm up there just recording student responses. They're passing the peep, but they all suddenly were participating because they wanted to catch it. Even some of my students who usually are not the biggest participators, they were willing to participate for the peep. So that was a big win. Also with measurement conversions, we're focusing right now on customary measurement. So if you're not in the US, that's the system that we use here. So for example, with weight, it's pounds, ounces, and tons. For length, it's inches, feet, yards, miles. And we had a discussion, of course, about how we're basically the only country that uses it. Everyone else uses the metric system. We have already learned the metric system earlier this year. So now we're going back, we're focusing on the customary system. And so to talk about weight, we took out these weight scales. So this is, who is this by? EAI Education. And it's a pack of weights. This is also a scale by the same company, a balance scale. And so we talked about, okay, this weighs 1 ounce, this weighs 1 pound, and I had some students, hold it. And so I would show them, okay, there's the ounce, there's the pound. And so to figure out how many ounces are in a pound, we would sit here and continue adding the ounces. Now, I don't have enough to be able to equal a pound. So we would make swaps, like these are 4 ounces, I can swap it for this yellow one. And then we would put, 4 more on there, swap it for this yellow one. So now we're at 8. And then we kept going, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And at this point, I was getting a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie, because I knew that 16 ounces equals a pound, but I'm like, this has not moved. There's no way this little one is gonna balance it out. But sure enough, you put it on there and it balances. And I was like, success. But it was a really concrete way to make that memorable for my students. So that was a big success. Now today we are focusing on capacity units. So we are focusing on cups, pints, quarts, gallons, and it's one of my favorite things to teach because I get to tell the story of the kingdom of gallon. If you are not familiar with the kingdom of gallon, it's a really easy way for students to remember how many quarts in a gallon, how many pints in a quart, how many cups in a pint. I've also seen Gallon Man, which if you're a fan of Gallon Man, that's fine. I'm a fan of Kingdom of Gallon, but by the end of the story, students end up drawing this representation, but you tell them that there is a kingdom of gallon, so they draw a big G. Inside of the kingdom, there lives 4 queens, so they put 4 Qs. And then you can even talk about how they weren't getting along and they had to split the kingdom into north and south, and then that's a half gallon. Not that they have to know that, but it's helpful, so I have them draw a line in the middle. Then each queen had a prince and a princess, so you've got the 2 Ps inside of the Q that represents 2 pints in a quart. Then inside of each P, I say that each one had 2 cats, and they put 2 Cs to represent 2 cups and a pint, but in the story, it's each prince or princess has 2 cats. So as they draw that, because it's a story, it becomes something that they remember, and when it comes to testing, they can then draw that out to figure out how many quarts in a gallon, how many pints in a quart, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing that today. I'm excited about it because it's something my students always enjoy. And then as we're going through these measurement conversions, I'm also teaching my students a little trick because when they're converting from small units to big units, they have to divide. And when they convert from big units to small units, they have to multiply. And that gets confusing because you would think if I'm going from small to big, I should be multiplying, right? It should be getting bigger. But having the discussion about how if I'm taking smaller units and grouping them together to make a bigger unit, I'm gonna have less of the bigger unit I'm dividing. Regardless, the little trick that I tell them is whatever your bigger unit is, that's your horse. And I have them hold out their hands, that's their horse. Whatever their smaller unit is, that's their fly. So it's the small unit because flies are small, horses are big. And they're always like, why a fly and a horse? I'm like, well, let me tell you. The little memory trick is if I go from horse to fly, I multiply. So big to small, I multiply. And with their hands, they've made a multiplication sign. So I always have them go horse to fly, multiply. And then if they're going the opposite way, so from small to big, that's fly to horse, you divide, of course. And I tell them that their arms have kind of made a division sign. If this is that middle line, think of their head and their feet as the dots. But it's just a little memory hook for them to be able to remember whether to multiply or divide. So far, so good. We need to still practice it, but it's a work in progress, as is pretty much everything. If you saw my last vlog, you know that next week we are starting our Golden Egg Award just to change things up leading into spring break. Usually I have a Golden Emerson. That student keeps the award all week long. Next week, we're gonna have the Golden Egg Award, and it's gonna rotate between students every day. So there will be 5 Golden Egg winners. It's not gonna go to everyone, but I'm gonna do it with my morning students and my afternoon students. This is a Golden Egg I've had since my 2nd year of teaching, so it's 10 years old. It's still kicking. But students do not keep the egg. They do, however, keep all of the items that go inside. So if you saw my last vlog, I mentioned these little carrot erasers and how I wanted to get more of them. It's on a roll. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, this is weird. I don't get the joke.
I was able to find more carrot erasers. So inside of the egg, they're gonna get a little carrot eraser. They're also going to get a carrot highlighter. They're going to get one of these lollipops. They're going to get a little chocolate bunny. So these are the Hershey's cookies and cream bunnies. And then I did return the pencils because they were not gonna fit inside of the egg. Plus I had accidentally bought a thing of crayons. But I did get these little mini golden eggs because they were just so cute. These were from Dollar Tree. So my thought is I'm gonna fill these with some little like robin's eggs or other candies. I still need to get the candies. and make sure it all fits inside of the egg. I should probably do that first. But I did also grab these little flower pots. So if you saw my last vlog, I had grabbed these little foam carrots and I was like, oh, they could throw them into flower pots and the flower pots could be labeled with numbers or point values or something. We can make it into a game. So at Dollar Tree, I picked up these packs of flower pots. I got 6 of them, so my thought is I can make it like a triangle 3, 2, 1 and have, like I said, numbers or point values. That will be a next week activity. But I need to go ahead and get the egg prepped so that way it is ready to go and I can kind of show my students this morning, because I'm gonna introduce the golden egg to them so they know that come Monday morning when they come in, they're gonna find out who the first golden egg recipient is. And to help introduce it, I'm gonna read them the book, The Good Egg. If you've never read this, it's such a cute book. So I will link it for you. It's the same creators of The Bad Seed. There's also The Cool Bean, The Couch Potato. They have a whole bunch of them. But basically the egg is like the good one in the bunch, everyone else is bad, and so the good egg leaves, but then the good egg kind of takes care of themselves in order to feel more like rejuvenated because they were getting all these cracks because they were dealing with all the other bad eggs around them. But in the end, they realize they kind of miss the rest of the group and it's okay that we're not all perfect. And they realize that they just have to take care of themselves too. And I thought that was a really good connection. So I'm gonna read them this book. We're gonna introduce the golden egg this morning. I'm gonna show them some of the things inside just so they know that there are treats and they get to keep the treats, but the egg will get passed on to a new student every day. I also have an editable little certificate that they're gonna get with it, but I'm really excited to introduce that to them today because they've been anticipating it all week. I'm very happy to report it was a great Friday, a much better day than yesterday, which goes to show you a little sleep can go a long way when it comes to rejuvenating your mind, body, spirit, soul, all of that. I was able to get the moon lamp hung up before my students came in this morning. It was super easy. I put batteries in. It used 4 AA for the lamp and then 3 AAA or 2 AAA for the for the remote. I can't remember, but I hung it up just using command strips and I used the little Velcro ones. That way, if or when I need to take it down to change the batteries, that's pretty simple. But I love it, it's so cute and it's hard to see with the lights on, but with the lights off, it looks really good. My students were very excited about it and it actually came with posters, one in Spanish, one in English. So I'm going to, oh, there's the directions. 2, it used 2 AAA batteries for the remote, but I will hold on to these and probably laminate them. That way I can put them up next year. But that was good. And then for math, Kingdom of Gallon went over really well. And I felt like behavior was really good today because my students all know that I'm looking, you know, for the golden egg recipient for Monday. Speaking of Monday, I am actually out. I will be here, but I won't be here. I will be having a planning day with a coworker. So more about that in the next vlog because I'm gonna vlog on Monday as well. But let me go ahead and show you our math word wall, which I was able to get up today. So on the left, I wrote out those shortcuts for the measurement conversion. So horse to fly, bigger unit to smaller unit. You multiply because a smaller unit means there will be more pieces. I included some examples. Fly to horse, you divide, of course, because a bigger unit means less pieces. And then I wrote out some of the US customary conversions. So length, 1 foot is 12 inches, 1 yard is 3 feet. For weight, 1 pound is 16 ounces. And then I have all of those capacity units and I drew an example of the Kingdom of Gallon. They also have the notes in their notebook and then I put just a few reminders and I included a little word bubble for the cat because it's questionable whether or not it looks like a cat. And then something else that made my day today was I got a shout out in the first 5 this morning, which I was not expecting, but I've shared about the first 5 by Ed Tomorrow before. It's a free basically repertoire or database of all of these social emotional learning connections that you can do with your students and questions and activities. It's fantastic. I've shared about it many, many times. Well, this morning I get that email at 6 a.m. and I start scrolling through. On Fridays, we always play the brain games. So I go to get the link and I scroll down. I'm like, wait, I know her, that's me. So that was really fun. And then when I took my students to lunch, our counselor was like, wait, I saw you in the first 5 this morning. So very much appreciate that. I will link to it again in the description box. If you have not signed up for their free email, you get an email every day of the school week with free resources. You just click and then you've got all of these pre-made images and games that you can do with your students. Highly, highly recommend. But that's gonna wrap it up because I have no work I need to get done before I leave, yay! I already printed out my sub plans. In fact, they're right here for Monday because as I mentioned, I will have a substitute. We'll chat more about that on Monday. All you need to do is grab my sub binder down from up there, grab a chocolate, put that out, I'm good to go. My classroom is clean. My students did a great job today at dismissal. I have everything ready to go for next week that I need and leading into spring break, and I feel really good. I'm caught up on all my grading. So I'm gonna treasure this while I can. It was beautiful weather today, it's in the 80s. So I'm gonna go home, maybe go for a walk with Ember and Billy and just have a nice weekend. But if you enjoyed this vlog, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on and I will catch you in the next one.